Like Santa has not got his hat on at this point.
Come on,
right? Okay, there we go. Oh my goodness! Right. Yes, there we go. I think we're in good shape now. So, hi everyone. Apologies about the slight delay there. I don't know what to say really. Do you want to kick off, George? I think in terms of frenetic starts, this is one of the most frenetic starts we've ever had to a show. So apologies if you were in what felt like a Heathrow holding pattern there at the beginning there. We just needed a little bit of extra time to get our hats on. So we've got our hats on.
We could put it down to that. No, I think everything that could have gone wrong has gone wrong.
Yeah, so if it sounds like we're buying ourselves a little bit of time, that's because it's true. Yeah, we feel like these cows. Aren't these cows amazing, by the way? We've got another one of these great rooms. It's a good job you can't see the wallpaper on the other side, which is some kind of...
If we go a bit crazy, it's because the wallpaper there is just a little bit psychedelic.
Anywho, get the camera turned around to show that is quite fabulous, and you can see the room that we're in as well. Just make sure we get us back in shot, George. That is the key thing here.
It's not bad.
My name's Brian.
Hi Brian, nice to meet you.
Your name's George, right? Yeah, we present a podcast called The Data Mix, and we are at episode 14, which is shocking. I was actually doing a review of some of the stats that we had for earlier in the year, and this is actually number 9 for this year. We did 5 in 2021, and we've done 9 this year as well, including this one, which is not bad as well.
I like that trajectory.
Yeah. So how's it doing apart from getting your Santa hat on?
Christmas shopping, tick, just about done. Christmas food, almost there. The house smells like spiced cabbage at the moment. We made spiced cabbage last night.
Yeah. I'm just going to adjust this slightly here to try and get there. We go. Oh yes, it almost looks like a Christmas tree in the background, but we've got the orange tree as well. So it's good here. I had a taxi to get from a different part of Edinburgh, which proved a bit of a challenge here as well. And I've still not succeeded in not blocking myself out. So,
and Edinburgh is hoaching.
Hoaching is the word.
So trying to walk through the town to get here is first of all a bit of a nightmare. And then you get to the front door and there's a big sign up, shutters are down saying use the back door. And the back door is about a half-mile walk. I kid you not.
Guys, we appreciate you being here. It makes it for us, and you're probably more prepared than we are in terms of landing in the spot. Having said all of that, we have a great episode up for today, don't we?
And we're keeping somebody waiting in the sidelines.
We are keeping someone waiting, and I'm just wondering if we should bring her on now, because I know that she is time boxed as well today. So shall we just bring her on?
Our Christmas elf.
Yes,
our Christmas elf.
And we have, well, hopefully, if you've seen what's going on beforehand, you'll know that we've got Elif here. Elif Tutuk. Hello, Elif. How are you? Hopefully you can hear us and see us okay. Otherwise, we're just talking to ourselves here, which is equally bad.
Yeah, I can see you and hear you. I hope you can see me as well. Of course, I had to put my Christmas hat as well, as you do. So
I love it.
So, look, everyone thought the promo was just like Photoshop edited with the Santa hats, but this is just proof of life that this is a real thing that is happening in real life. Elif, we're so excited to see you. We're so excited to see you.
Really are.
I don't think we've really spoken to you since events have happened in the past, so I'll be interested to have a chat with you about those events just now. But how are you doing? Are you prepared for Christmas?
Yeah, I'm prepared for Christmas, as George was saying, getting the food ready and everything ready. But it's great to be here. I miss you all. So it is just great to have the chance to talk. So it's great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We feel kind of privileged to have Christmas Elif here, don't we?
Yeah, we certainly do.
The jokes begin here. There's no way they're going to continue, though. That's for sure.
Yeah,
you've got 2 dads here, full of dad jokes, unfortunately.
Yeah, so that's it. So it's great to have you here, Elif. We're going to keep our hats on for a little while just to sort of go in with the comedy vibe of actually being here a couple of minutes beforehand.
I'm looking around for a thermostat, though, because it might get a little bit warm. I've got 3 layers.
Are you overdone? Yeah. So, Elif, like I say, it's wonderful to see you. It has been a while, certainly for me, and I think for George as well, since we've had a chance to catch up. So, ironically, we're using this to catch up as well. And I think that just to give everyone a bit of a flavour of the topic of the show, this is the Data Mix episode 14. And I've not. That is when you edit your captions wrong. So I'm just going to take that off, and we're going to talk about it until I manage to fix it. So we're here to demystify the lake house, aren't we? That's what we're supposed to be here to talk about.
We are. I have heard. I think the first time I heard Lakehouse mentioned was this year,
Yep.
actually the start of this year, and it comes up in conversation all the time. And there's different definitions. But I think before we talk about lakehouses, I'd love to know what Elif, what you've been doing for the last year.
Yeah, so
because I think there's probably quite a few people listening and who will listen to this as a podcast afterwards, who are going to be interested to know really where you've come from, why you made the jump, and what attracted you to the role you're in now.
Yeah. So yeah, it is for sure an interesting. It was an interesting year for me this year. I made a change. So for the people who may listen later and who doesn't know me, I spent all my career innovating and building data and analytics products what I'm passionate about is really to enable everyone with data literacy and self-service and insights. So I spent most of my career at Qlik, as you guys know, and I think still part of my blood is still green. I love the technology, I love the company, I love the people and the community. I worked at Qlik more than 10 years, 12 years. But this year, I found something that made my heart beat again. Faster. It was already beating, but then I decided to join AtScale as the global head of products. And why I joined AtScale, I think there are some trends that I've been seeing in terms of all the data movement to cloud. And then the attraction that we are seeing in the market with Snowflake, Databricks with the Databricks SQL, and we will be talking more about the Lakehouse, and also like Google BigQuery and the other cloud data providers. So that's number one thing, right? And then the other thing is, there's a huge need in the market right now in terms of modern data architecture, modernizing the analytics consumption on top of those cloud data providers. So those are some of the trends that I've been seeing. And as you know, I spent almost maybe 2 decades innovating self-service products, and we have done great things at Qlik. Like we, innovated the Beast, the cognitive engine, really kind of to use AI/ML with the idea of how we can, really put self-service on steroid, generating insights for the users. I put my heart into that, but when it comes to real self-service, it's not only about enabling the user to generating insights. Like when you do that within one environment, like one data platform, analytics platform, it limits the users, because at the end it's all about the users and producing the data products for the users. And when it comes to users, they want to use the BI tool or analytics tool of their choice to get the job done. I used to say at Qlik, every time a user exports data from Qlik to Excel, an angel dies. And I think I killed a lot of angels in my life. But there's a reason for that in terms of like, the users would like to use the tool of choice. So for me, I have this realization that self-service is also enabling, providing a trusted set of metrics and dimensions that can be consumed, whatever the tool of choice that the user has. So it was a long answer in terms of what I've been up to and what I've been thinking. Yeah.
I think we heard a similar story from Malcolm Hawker. Actually, it seems to be there's so much innovation going on in the industry, and there's huge attraction to go to where the cool stuff's happening. And I agree with you, Elif. I think where you are at scale just now, that seems to be one of the hottest trends right now within data. And I've done quite a lot of reading myself, and I've probably got to a point now where I'm more confused than I started. So I'm looking forward to some demystifying now.
Yeah. So, and then the other thing is, and you guys are on the field and you are seeing this more and more, like there is new personas coming in. Now there's this concept like persona of analytics engineers, right? They use DBT, and it is this whole shift of, how we can move out from data warehousing, but going to data lakes and then now the lakehouse. And I would like to talk more about like why that trend is happening. And I know you have been living and breathing some of the challenges, and now why there is new technologies. And just George, like this is not about, what is the new cool trend. It is really thinking about the user needs. And it's about creating data products. And when you talk about product, it's all about design and really thinking about the user and what they need to enable them to consume the insights in the right time at the right moment. So yeah.
I think that's a really cool start. What I want to do, Elif, is I see our chat is like quite busy, so I just want to say hello to a few people in the chat here. I think some people you might know and some people we might know as well. So first of all, a shout out to Gillian. I'm not sure which part was brilliant, but I'm hoping it was the whole first comedy 5 minutes of everything that we went through. It's wonderful to see you here, Gillian. Always a pleasure.
Hi, Julian.
Hi, Gillian. We're waiting here to join. Yes, apologies. We did have a bit of an elongated start at the beginning, guys. And someone who shall remain anonymous because LinkedIn says so says, "Hi, guys, you haven't aged." So we have to show that comment for all of us, Elif.
Of course.
Yeah. And we've got a few others here as well from Babu. Season's greetings. And Dion, we'll leave it there just now. Makes me Christmassy to see you all back again. Oh, I hope that's the hats and the orange tree that looks suspiciously like a Christmas tree in the background as well as we do that.
Christmas Satsumas.
It's very nice indeed.
For the stockings.
I feel like we should go back and rewind that sentence a bit, Elif, that you talked about in terms of that introduction. And obviously, I think a lot of people on this call will know you for your time at Qlik. And this feels very strange for me to talk to you in a different capacity. But I'll tell you the other reason it feels strange is that some of the presentations that you used to do when we all went to Texas and Florida, and I think it's the Qlik World is at Vegas next year. There's one that I remember, and it was the introduction of the beast and the terminology of the beast and how it sent connections at the time buzzing because everyone was like, "What is the beast? We're going to find out about the beast today." And then you came up and probably got the biggest rapturous amount of applause at the end of that session that I've ever heard at a conference. How did that feel for you to be at the front of that, Elif? Just first of all, in the room basis of being there when that, just going crazy. I mean, the only time I think that people went more crazy is when Brian Muntz had his difficult session on stage that he managed to get through. But how did that feel? I mean, that must be a big buzz for you when you do stuff like that, right?
It was an amazing moment, just hearing that reaction from the audience, because when you build a technology, of course we always work with users, we get their input and we do design sessions, but it's just that moment where you show the thing in front of 3,000 people and you get that feedback. It's just you cannot replace that with anything else, and it was one of the moments in my career as well to do that. But I have to say that it is about technology, right? I'm just a presenter, and the team at Qlik has done an awesome job putting it together. That I know now, there's hundreds of users using that technology, and just makes me smile bigger.
I mean, we won't hover on Qlik for too long, but I think it is really interesting the way that the cognitive engine has manifested itself in Qlik into so many different areas, into the auto chart suggestion and so many other things that are happening in there as well. And it's become so much of an everyday thing, Elif, that we don't really notice that we're using it anymore. And the beast has just become the silent thing. And isn't that what we aspire with all technology? And this refers back to your point at the beginning, is the more of a process that we have to go through to use technology, the more it needs work on it.
Well,
exactly. To make it that sort of seamless experience where it just happens. And maybe that isn't the best for the people that have designed the technology because they've made it fly so far under the radar that you don't know it's there. But that must be an end goal for you, right? What are end goals for you when you're working with this type of technology?
Yeah, the end goal is really it's about designing it in a way that the user doesn't really understand that they are using the product. I was in a call with a customer a couple of weeks ago, and I heard, the more you use AtScale, like the better it gets. And those are the things where you build a technology that users loves. And when I say user, especially when you think about the data analytics pipeline, there are so many personas that is working with that technology. It's just an awesome thing to hear, and I've been hearing that over and over at Qlik. I'm hearing now over at AtScale, because it's not about building a technology. It's finding the solution, by determining the problem, and then really designing a solution that fits that user needs with the right context. And that's all about that. Like for every new project that I'm getting as a product leader, I really look at it, okay, what's the job to be done? What's the problem to solve? It's not about a cool technology idea. It's all about the user. And that is what I'm also loving right now, kind of, with my heart beating faster. Because when you think about all the challenges in terms of like data and how the data journey has been moving along, like in 1980s it all started with data warehousing, right? That was the coolest thing, and there was a reason why that technology has invested, because the data was in operational systems. The business really didn't have the way of analyzing that data to gain visibility into what's going on in the business, to monitor, measure, and act. So with that concept of data warehousing came in, and then the idea was extract data from operational systems, transform it, and then load it to data warehouses. And it is still there, like, we are all using it. But that approach has its challenges because, and I know, you have been working with many customers, I worked as well, transforming data with the question and then loading it creates delays because the questions are constantly changing. There's a dynamic business environment, and that technology anymore is not flexible and agile enough. So with that, then, in the last maybe 10 years, we start seeing more the data lake concept. And the data lake is, okay, what about if we dump all the data first, extract it, and then load it, and then do the transformation kind of on the fly on that moment to enable the business needs. And I think what I'm seeing in the last year is more and more the talk about creating data products. But in the meantime, kind of everyone acknowledges the benefit of having a data lake. But then there is always, the analytics load that you have to satisfy. And that is where the lakehouse concept came in.
Well, I think we'll talk about the lakehouse concept a little bit more. But one of the things that I thought you mentioned that was really important and almost had me like up and standing with applause there, Elif, was the fact that technology-led conversations, right? This has been a running theme with almost every episode that we've done since the turn of the year. Projects being led by technology are projects that end up being the ones that get thrown in the trash can after 6 months because you're trying to fit a problem into a tech, and frankly, it just does not work, right? So what that really made me smile when you said that, because even when you talk about the storied history of where you're working and where you are now, the problem is still the same, right? And the problem is to address the problem, not necessarily to throw software at it, although software is a facilitator. And that's a really important point that we shouldn't forget, right?
Yeah. Well, there's a maturity scale actually, and where you have technology designed solutions to your problems, that's actually quite a low level of maturity, because there's a whole other ecosystem of governance, of process, of controls that come in that make your entire data landscape work for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you think about like data and creating those data products, data solutions, and it is even more important to think about the user and the problems that they have. Because like when you think about data consumption to make decisions, like you really need to make sure that there's a trusted data source and the users are able to really analyze that data with the speed of thought. And now with the cloud, there's not only the governance about the governance of the data or the analytics, you also have to think about the governance of cost and performance. So again, it's just like, especially if you are building solutions and technologies around data, you have to be like design thinking and user focused all the time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We're getting a little bit of feedback, but I'm not sure which end that is that's happening. I think that's pretty amazing. And how have you found the contrast between working with a company at Qlik? I don't mean the physicalities, Elif. I just mean in terms of what you're trying to achieve. What are the differences that you found there with Qlik and AtScale so far?
So I think the most important difference, as I mentioned, like again, what we have done at Qlik, and still Qlik continues to shine doing that. Again, that technology has started with a business problem at hand with Kauka and Volga and others, and then with me kind of continue to innovate. But one of the challenges that I've been seeing over my career is just how you kind of define and have a set of governance set of dimensions and measures, or the analytics that can be consumed. And it's all about, again, enabling multiple analytics consumption ways to the user to consume that. So when I joined AtScale, like, I realized our founder and the current CTO, Dave Mariani, he has been living and breathing this problem when he was leading the data at Yahoo. So this was probably like more than 10 years ago. And he has been asked that with all of that data at Yahoo to provide analytics capabilities. And they have been working with OLAP cubes and structures, and there's no way that OLAP cubes can handle that much of data. So then he said that, just I'm going to create, a technology to solve this problem. And then this is how he created the AtScale semantic engine. And I also want to kind of make a differentiation. I had this aha moment. I was actually talking to Donald Farmer a couple of days ago, and just talking about the platform. Like, when you think about semantic layer, it's not a new concept, and it has been, a concept for more than, 15 years. I think it started with business objects. I would say that, like, I always refer it as it's the dinosaur in the room. Well, it has 2 points. Like, there is a reason why it is still around, because that's the ultimate solution. But then I refer that as more the semantic layer, governance, single version of truth. That is the passive metadata that you have to have for organizations. But then there is also the active metadata, and active metadata is about how users are using that data, and then kind of generating metadata from that usage. And that is where the unique thing about AtScale is that having that semantic engine, and that is where I'm differentiating. Semantic layer is must, but you have to think about a semantic engine. And the unique things about the semantic engine, when I think about it, like, first of all, it leaves the data where it resides. So it doesn't extract, it doesn't duplicate data. But then the other thing about the semantic engine, it has AI and ML capabilities, and of course, thinking me, I wouldn't be, going somewhere without having, that type of capabilities. It's kind of like it sees all of the analytics conversations happening in an organization, because all the queries is going through that semantic engine, and the engine determines all the query patterns. And then based on the most common patterns, it creates aggregation logic. And then it basically stores that aggregation logic on the whatever cloud data source that the customer or the users are using, Snowflake, Databricks, or Google BigQuery, Redshift. So next time when a similar business question comes, instead of the query hitting the granular level data, AtScale engine kind of directs that to the aggregates, and that provides a huge performance saving for the users. And then overall, it also provides a huge cost saving for IT because the queries are not spending much time on the cloud data provider. I was actually, as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, and I'm talking to a customer, and the person said that the more you use this semantic engine, the better it gets, because then again it becomes the natural gateway for all the analytics conversation in an organization, and then the users love it because they know that they are using a governed set of analytics. They can have trust. They love it because there is a huge performance gains. And then IT loves it because they can provide governance from a single place, and plus all the cost savings that they are doing on the cloud providers. So again, this is all about finding the problems, right? What is the next problem that IT have to deal? Like, it was governance. Now, the next thing is cost savings that they have to think about with the cloud data providers. The users are all about, how can I use the tool of choice to get my analytics job done? And also, how can I have speed of thought analytics? And how can I trust the analytics when I'm consuming? So those are the things that, really made me start thinking more and more about the semantic layer and semantic engine.
Okay. But from what you're saying there, Elif, it almost sounds like it's a caching engine. It's more than a caching engine, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't cache the data in the traditional way. It is all about leaving the data at the data source, but then understanding and looking those query patterns to kind of decide, okay, these are the new aggregation that needs to be created, and creates those on the data source. And then it automatically manages those aggregates by time. So if that pattern doesn't happen anymore after a time period, and you can adjust those things, of course, manually, it cleans those aggregates so that they are not being used.
All right.
So I guess the key word that I'm hearing here is aggregation, Elif, right? Because we can't be keeping can't be dipping into all of this data and keeping it in a granular way, because that it goes against all of our data protection laws and GDPR and all of that side of things as well. So that aggregation part is really important. And I must say, you've raised an important thing for me in my head there, because I've never thought of this process as a holistic, let's look at everything that we're analyzing and then work out what we could be analyzing or what we should be analyzing in the future based on that. Everything that I've dealt with cognition in the past has always been, okay, we'll learn about one specific thing and help you to do that one specific thing a little better in the future, right? But this sounds much more encompassing than that. Does that sound fair? And if I sound like I'm asking silly questions, it's probably because I genuinely want to understand Elif, and it's not something I've had a lot of experience of. So please tell me if I'm going in the wrong direction here.
No, like it is the right direction. It is kind of, I think, ultimately, if you will be asking me what is the next thing for that active semantic layer and metadata, it is really about, understanding the user patterns more and more, not only kind of creation those aggregations, but to start customizing and personalizing the analytics and the insights consumption. So that's one thing. The other thing that I really want to highlight is about, we have to think about the other personas, like the data scientist is a new persona that, when I say new, it has been years that they are around, but they also have the same type of needs because, the way that I see what's happening in the data science, ML and AI is kind of like what we have been, maybe live and breathe and find a solution for the BI maybe 5 or 10 years ago. Like they also have the problem of spending 80% of their time to get the data, make it analytics ready for the ML and AI models. And that is the other thing. Like we have to think about semantic layer not only for analytics users, but also those need personas where the data scientists can actually connect to semantic layer to use that the same governed and trusted set of metrics definition or analytics or business ready data to be used in their ML models. The other important thing is, once they create their ML models, they also create a set of features. The set of features are really thinking about the dimensions, kind of like the breakdown in the traditional BI term. So just why not to write those features and make them part of the semantic layer, kind of like a feature store. And then finally, once a prediction is being created, like you can actually write that prediction back to the data source so that it can become available at a trusted source from the semantic layer to be consumed with the historical and predictive data together, again at the tool of choice. So those are some of the things that I'm kind of constantly thinking now. Okay, what's the next thing? What's the next problem that we can solve with the semantic layer?
Okay, this is starting to make sense for me. Elif, would you could you give us a sort of high level description then? With me, say, as a new user of AtScale, what would be the steps that I would take then to implement this from a technology point of view, first of all, to implement this, connect it to my data? So I presume a data lake, but what about any operational systems, or should this just be a lake, and then actually consume that? And I'm curious to know, is there how am I querying this, I guess? And I think one of the definitions of a semantic layer I've heard is almost a translation from business language to your technology. So I'm kind of curious as to how AtScale solves these problems.
Yeah, so great questions, George. Again, talking to the problems to solve, right? It is just, as an analytics consumer, like you want to kind of make your data to talk the language of business, right? Yeah. So that is, you're 100% right of the definition of semantic layer. So the way that when you work with AtScale, there is, our so first of all, you can deploy it on-prem or use the cloud version of it. And AtScale, has been originated with the, how we can improve the performance of your analytics consumption from both cost and performance perspective. So with that kind of goal in mind, it works with the cloud data providers. Like, for example, Databricks. And this is where with Databricks now supporting SQL, we have a great partnership with them. And this is where we kind of start leveraging the power of Lakehouse. And so it is all about the cloud data providers and to provide analytics workload to those data providers. And when you're in the AtScale, the first thing that you do is, as you said, connect to your data source, and then you create a model, just like we are creating it at Qlik, or in Power BI you create it as well. Every tool, BI tool, has that. Yeah, this is where you kind of transform the data. But the only difference is now you're transforming data in a common, like a central layer that you can hook the other, BI tools or the AI tools as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you create your model, then you create your measure and dimensions, definitions. One of the other thing that I had, aha moment since I start using the technology is this multi-dimensional, dimensional modeling and the concept of a confirmed dimension. When you think about the business, they have those confirmed dimensions that are the common way that you have to analyze the data, like a customer, like a product, time, geography. And AtScale also has those, some other unique capabilities in terms of how we create the time intelligence, which is a heart of any analytics. So like that confirmed dimension concept is also kind of that I can talk about more data mesh and how it helps, but don't let me to jump there yet, maybe. So it's basically, you create the model, and then that model's kind of how you kind of consume. And then from the BI tool, when you open your BI tool, you just see the set of dimensions and measures that just like you are seeing. So the analytics consumer, my point is, they don't know that they are actually using AtScale provided governed the set of things.
Yep.
They are just using their BI tool. Yeah.
Okay. And Elif, this team of a dozen database engineers that I've got currently doing data warehouse work, can I now move these to become AtScale developers? Do I need as many of these developers as we had in the past?
Yeah, so that's a great question. It's some of the things that I'm also thinking. So I would say the AtScale developer is a right now, when I look at the profile of our users, it's kind of like a BI developer who has a good understanding of the business, who understands the data, but they are not data engineers. And those are the personas in a BI tool who can do the kind of the data modeling part of it. What I would like to achieve is, I'm thinking about the data engineers, the analytics engineers, right? And they are all using a markup language or more code-based development of data products. So one of the things that we are looking is how we can enable more code-based creation of a semantic model. And then I think that is kind of going to help us to reach out to those personas as well. Yeah.
That sounds cool.
I think that does sound cool, and we'll skip over the fact there was one BI tool that we're not related to at all that was mentioned in that conversation. But having said all that, I did want to back reference one of the things that you said. And am I right in understanding that this is agnostic, Elif, right? Everything that's being done here is agnostic. So although we talk and we name BI tools and whatever those are, the process to get to those is an agnostic process, right? Just to be 100% clear on this.
Yeah, it is agnostic. And then again, when you talk about semantic layer, the whole idea is, any tool, again, I'm just emphasizing the ML tools as well, like Python libraries, like you should be able to use that semantic layer. That is my suggestion of anyone who is interested in. There are open source products that you can, use semantic layer. Of course, they don't provide the enterprise scale capability that we have been investing muchly. Like, again, I've been thinking a lot about Qlik and Semantic, and how we can help to Qlik communities and users with that. I know, like, before I left, and I think we have released that, Qlik has released that, the live direct query, where the whole idea, again, how we can access more real time to the data sources, and with that kind of, there could be some possibilities to kind of have that being part of the semantic layer as well. Yeah, as you said, that it is all about tool agnostic, and then how you can put the self-service on the next steroid level.
Yeah, I think again another one of the interesting takeaways here for me as well is that I can see in my head things like, traditionally that used to be separate processes, like data cataloging at the front end and predictive analytics at the back end, and these traditionally have all been treated as the sum of their parts. Now, I will grant that there are tools out there, or there are platforms out there that attempt to do that integration to make it part of a workflow, but it's not like a fully fledged platform, I would say, right? It's a part one with a connector to part two, and a part two with connector to part three. And I think, again, going back to the product-led conversation, product versus problem at the beginning, being able to crack that semantic part of, well, what's syntactically what we're trying to do, what's the problem that we're trying to solve, and being able to abstract that into that type of physical problem is something that I haven't really thought about, to be honest, before the top of this show. I mean, what do you think, George? Well, does practicality still rule? Can I be devil's advocate and say, does practicality still rule? Because this sounds wonderful in terms of semantic layer, but it sounds like a lot of work. It sounds like a lot of preparation, possibly, rather than doing. I mean, I'll ask George first, and then we'll throw it to Elif after that.
Because I've done a little bit of research into the AtScale product, and there's still a lot of gaps in my knowledge.
Bad Santa, good Santa. See, there you go.
Well, I love it.
Yeah. But what I think, that this is another building block, and what I'm dreaming is that this tool actually takes away. So what would be my dream is a lake house. Sorry, is a lake plus all your other operational systems, and then a layer on top of that then you can query from literally anywhere in the organization that has already dealt with things like your it knows what, if I want to do if I want to know what the best product in my EMEA region is, for example. The system understands that business language then. It knows what your products are, for example. But I also want it to have a concept of master data management. And I also want it to understand from a governance point of view, should that be the layer that knows my user and whether or not I can access that data.
Yeah,
and I feel this could be the magic bullet.
Strong word from Santa there. Strong words from.
Being the elf. So you're right on spot, George, and also Brian being the bad Santa. You're right. Like, there's so much things to do, and it's all about finding the right solution to solve the problem, and building that. I would say that today in the data analytics pipeline, the most common problem is how you can combine the business users and just create that collaboration between the data persona and the analytics consumer, because the analytics consumers are the people who knows the business rule, and those rules are changing. Like, think about like COVID, like every organization during COVID, they had the data warehouses and star schemas and everything, but they weren't able to answer the question because they weren't able to apply that moments of business reality to their data in a agile, fast, and governed manner. So having one place where you can actually easily change the data models and definitions of the data for that right consumption, it's just like, if we can, and I think there's still problems to solve of that, like create that collaboration between the analytics consumers and the data producers where they can work together to define that data product. And I think that's why we are now seeing more and more data mesh concept. I don't know what you guys think about I don't want to get into, let's say, data fabric, data mesh, but it is more around like data mesh.
Right.
Yeah, I think that you've hit the nail on the head there in terms of data users and business consumers, and the language barrier between them has always existed, right? But I think that the biggest problem is that the language changes completely from technical to business, and there isn't a construct that sits in the middle, which is virtual or otherwise, that helps to support the business to be able to look at that from different angles. And what you're describing to me, and I'm starting to get this a little bit more, it feels like almost like a semantic data dictionary that both sides of the business can look at and say, right, okay, I understand what that part is doing and what it's affecting and what it could affect in the future as well. And I'm still shocked at how many companies do not have, are nowhere close to that, right? You think about companies that still sit there running large pieces of data work on Excel, and you just have to look at that to understand that that's because they can't get technical enough to deal with what's happening. And you've got other businesses where that data is just locked in the data warehouse and they don't know how to get it out because they're too technical. So what you're talking about here is extremely important, because it acts as a segue between the two opposing forces.
And I think that there's one other really cool thing about this. I think, Elif, will this connect to an operational system? Can I connect this to my Salesforce data, for example, or my ERP?
No, because the semantic layer right now is all about going after that analytics ready data, and that is the differentiation that I'm.
Gotcha.
So you have the raw data in your operational system, then make that data per se analytics ready, and then it's under lakehouse or data warehouse. But then again, when you think about the next stage of the data is the business ready, and today that is happening in different BI tools or in the ML environment. So this is about how we can convert that analytics ready data to business ready in a fast, agile, governed way. And then that business ready data layer becomes the natural gateway for all the questions that goes to the backend. And then that part of the engine optimizes the consumption so that at the end you also get not only the governance for data for the business ready, but governance of performance and also cost savings.
Yeah.
So I think this is kind of like when I talk about analytics ready data versus business ready, people sometimes get confused initially, like what you mean, like analytics ready is business ready, which is not, because you are doing, and this is where like technologies like Qlik also shines, because you can do transformation of the data very, very fast. But the thing is, you are doing that in one BI environment. So with this semantic concept is, can you provide that type of flexibility, agility to business owners, but then still provide the governance and access and cost savings?
Gotcha. And I know we've only got you for another 3 or 4 minutes, Elif. Does AtScale actually then store data? Is it also a database in the background?
No, it doesn't store data. It just, if you are using Snowflake, data, like, it doesn't cache data, it doesn't store data. Yeah. So, yeah. But with that, I guess maybe a couple of things that I want to, kind of share with the audience, like in terms of what I'm seeing and what I think is going to happen more and more in the data environments. It's just about, we will start seeing more and more data mesh concept, because I think, George, you have mentioned this as well. It's all about enabling the business units for them to create the data products. So I think we will see more of the analytics engineer personas where the business units would like to create their data products. And when you think about the data products, making that data business ready is very important. And part of building those products, like, people will be really thinking about the creation of those data products from the value perspective. So they will start thinking like more design thinking, like what's the problem that we want to solve and what data products we can create that. So I think that we will start, I'm hoping that a shift, that the data analytics pipeline is not going to happen from left to right, but it will more happen from right to left. Like, people will start with the problem and then the value, and then they will create the right data products by using multiple technologies. And then the final thing is, again, I think governance so far has been always taught about data governance. That's why we have data catalog, analytics catalog, semantic layer being part of that as well. But I think now next year and going forward, there will be more thinking around the governance of the cost and the performance, especially with the cloud data providers.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about that yet, have we? The cloud cost and performance and implications of that. That is a huge one, and that's something that I'm sure we could catch up on another episode potentially soon as well. Look, Elif, we know you're a little bit time constrained today, so I just want to squeeze in a few more things before the end. I thought just to put us in the right frame of mind for Christmas, I had to put this one up. Just because I know the feels from Gillian, and she knows that you're still a little bit green inside, which I agree. I have two more questions to ask you. First of all, is that a Christmas gnome on your shelf, the red gnome? Is that a little Christmas gnome on your shelf behind you?
Yeah, and this one is actually from Sweden, like the black one. Of course, we all went to Lund several times, right? And then the red one is a kind of a friend of it, so he wouldn't feel alone. Yeah.
Very festive.
So the next one is, do you still have your green shoes, and do you have anything equivalent at AtScale? Do you have a defining clothing item at AtScale yet?
No, not yet. It takes time, right? You understand the culture and then the technology more, and then you come up with that. But yes, I still have my green shoes, and as I mentioned, I think part of my blood's still green, and I would love to kind of have further conversations about solving the self-service and then the governance problems more. But yeah.
Sure. And just I promise this is the last quick hit from me as well. I have to mention Ravit, right? So Ravit is your community manager here at AtScale, and I actually met Ravit in Edinburgh, right?
Yeah.
About 4 to 6 months ago, probably, and he gave me his shirt, and I actually tapped him on the shoulder virtually a couple of days ago, saying, could he just give us a little shout out? So I just want to say thank you to Ravit as well, and for AtScale for giving us a little shunt on this as well. Elif, this has been wonderful. Despite the rocky start, it feels like we have a lot more to talk about, and we'd love to have you back another time. What are you saying, mate, about that?
Elif, I'm going to contact you directly in the new year, because I think we have a lot to talk about. But in the meantime, thank you very much for giving us your time today. Brian, are we going to stay on for a few more minutes after Elif drops?
Yeah, we can.
Because I think we need to digest some of this.
I think so.
But this is a super cool product, Elif. And I can already see quite a few use cases.
Yeah, great. Thank you again. Thank you for having me. It's just always great to talk about data and the problems, right? And I hope I can come in the new year, Edinburgh, and then we can have some scotch together and talk more about these problems.
Oh, well, now you're talking our language. We are thinking about going for a pint after this as well, Elif. So yes, this does happen. We have had guests in the past that have come and had a pint with us afterwards. So we'd love to have that in the future.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much again. And it's great to meet again. Stay safe and then have a great holidays.
Thanks, Elif. Appreciate it. Cheers. Bye.
Close the browser window.
There we go. Right. So Elif is gone, but we remain.
Well, we need to unpick this because
I'll get my
this is brand new technology for me, and I've done my reading, but obviously this changed a few things for me. Because what I thought this was, and I think it partially was a layer on top of all of your data that you could then tap into from throughout the business that constantly learned depending on the queries that were going on, but also because there was a team in there that was helping to tell the Lakehouse what the translation between business language and technology language. But what I was a little bit surprised at is the fact that this wouldn't connect into an operational system at the same time. And I'm not quite sure why that is.
Well, I think with when you talk about layer, right? Layer, if you pardon the pun, semantically is a big concept to talk about, right? It's an overarching thing or a concept that sits over the top. And I think when you see this type of formative technology, it doesn't tend to land in a one hit. It does everything. It tends to be very aggregate. That's not the right word. I nearly said aggregative, but it iterates over time. And of course, all software does that, but where do you draw the line when it's a semantic software that its job is to consume as much as it can. Surely that has to, I would believe that has to be done in stages. And I would imagine that the reason it doesn't connect to those systems is because, much like most software out there, you have to pick your systems that you're going to connect to begin with to be able to create the semantic structure, right? Feel free to drop comments, and we're just going to chit chat for a few minutes about this, but we'd be happy to take more questions at this point as well. But I think that's the reason.
Yeah, well, I mean, just before we went on here, I had a really interesting chat with Elif on the technology. So I'm going to go for Elif has offered a demo and a further conversation. So I'm definitely going to take her up on that. Because it sounds like we're going to be hearing more and more about lake houses in 2023, especially given the sort of trickle of lake house chat I heard at the beginning of 2022, and how now every day I hear it in one context or another now. So I think it's one of these trends to watch.
The demystifying part is really important, because I don't know about all you guys out there, and please just do tell us. But for us, lots of these concepts are literally brand new. So we come into the show and we do the show to learn about the concepts as much as, you know, have people on that know a lot about them. It's so that to further our learning as well, because the gamut of technology, especially in the data universe, is so wide nowadays that it's hard to keep up.
Yeah.
And I think that was what was really interesting. It was wonderful to see Elif again, but also just branched into a new level of technology that I didn't know anything about. So I think it was. Really
there's another thing that obviously, I mean, you highlighted it just as we were wrapping up, and that is the cost saving. So Elif was talking about. She didn't use cached as the language, but she did talk about the same query happening several times.
Yes.
The lake house will make that query more efficient the next time, so you don't have to then go back to Snowflake or Redshift or your
if the semantic part of it can deal with somehow pseudo aggregating the data so that those real live queries don't need to happen, or they only need to happen once, and then it's an iterative process going forward. I'm struggling now because I'm talking about things that I don't know about, and I think that's a good reason to have Elif back when we've had a chance to look at it and look a little bit more at the technology as well. Look, you know what? I think as it is Christmas and our hats are getting quite warm, and it is quite warm in here, and we did talk about going for a drink afterwards, I think it would be fair to let our people away for a few minutes early, just because we're...
some people might have Christmas shopping
I think so. Some people might have Christmas shopping today. Some people might have done it earlier on today. No, I think that's great. Look, if you're still with us, thank you very, very much. Episode 14 of the Data Mix, we will be back with vengeance and fury with more of this in the new year. But before that, we're going to have some rest and harmony, and a little bit of downtime, which I don't know about you all watching, but we certainly need here from the Data Mix side of things as well. So I just want to say thank you very much, everyone, for coming along. Have a wonderful new year. Wear your Santa hats.
Indeed.
Wear your Santa hats. Have a great Christmas, and we will see you in the new year for a new run of the Data Mix. Thank you very much, everyone. We will see you soon.
Thank you.